It was a peaceful morning until a man appeared out of nowhere, brandishing a gun in front of my wife. His hands shook as he tried to act tough, his eyes wide with self-importance. He was standing there, right in our yard, all because she had jogged by the neighborhood security headquarters without showing any identification. What he didn't know, and what I would have loved to witness firsthand, was that the woman he was trying to intimidate wasn't just some jogger. She was Vanessa Vera Smith, a top-tier military strategist who had just returned from a covert mission 2 days before. Her gear was still half unpacked, and there she was, facing a wannabe security guard who was holding his gun sideways like he was in some bad B movie. I knew she could take him down with nothing more than a stick and a paper clip, but for once, she let him make the first move. He didn't back down, and that's when everything went south. We had settled into Pine Ridge Estates looking for a quiet life. No noise, no drama. It seemed perfect for Vera. She had once defused explosives during a typhoon while leading a rescue mission in a war zone. But here, all she wanted was peace. She dreamed of gardening, maybe even starting a chicken coop, and enjoying early morning runs. As for me, a proud tech geek with a love for coding, all I needed was a reliable Wi-Fi connection and a cozy basement. We thought we found our sanctuary in Pine Ridge, a secluded, secure community just outside the city. The brochures promised peace, neighborhood bonding, and family-friendly events. What they didn't mention were the cosplay security patrols riding around in golf carts, acting like they were playing out their own military fantasies. At first, the signs were subtle. 4 black golf carts lined up outside the community center, each emblazoned with the words Neighborhood Safety Squad in bright white letters. They looked like something out of a police drama, except these guys had garden gnome decals and cup holders on their carts. One even had flashing lights attached to the roof. I assumed it was some quirky Halloween decoration or part of a neighborhood parade. I was wrong. The so-called Neighborhood Safety Squad took their roles seriously, way too seriously. They even started handing out tickets to residents for walking their dogs without leashes on their own property. We kept to ourselves during the first few days. Vera, fresh from her mission, organized the garage and set up security cameras around the house. It wasn't out of paranoia, it was routine for her. As for me, I immersed myself in my tech work, pretending to ignore the increasingly bizarre situation unfolding around us. Then came our first encounter with the HOA President, Linda Phillips. She showed up within hours of our arrival, armed with a laminated badge, 3 clipboards, and a stern demeanor that screamed, "Don't question me." She handed us a 50-page booklet on neighborhood rules, and I skimmed through it casually, half laughing, until I realized it was no joke. Some of the gems included rules like no laundry could be dried outside, lawns couldn't exceed a specific height, and my personal favorite, no one was allowed to appear threatening while engaging in recreational activities. When I asked her what threatening meant, she just smiled and said, "You'll know it when you see it." That was our first real red flag. Vera, ever the diplomat, just smiled back and thanked her. She had a way of blending into any situation, calming people without them realizing it, something she learned from her years in the field. But that calmness would be tested soon enough. On the 8th day, Vera went for her usual morning jog, sneakers laced, hoodie on, earbuds in place. I was at home, sipping coffee and diving into a coding project. Then I got the alert. The motion detector on our street-facing camera pinged. I looked at my phone, expecting maybe a neighbor or a package. Instead, I saw 2 of the neighborhood safety squad's golf carts blocking the street, with Vera standing between them, her hands slightly raised. One of the men, a stocky guy named Officer Greg Parker, had his gun pointed straight at her chest, shouting something I couldn't make out through the camera. I dropped my mug and ran outside, barefoot, my heart racing. I was just in time to see 2 other officers standing by, clearly trying to mimic authority, but looking more clueless than intimidating. Vera was calm, though. Her eyes never left the gun, and she wasn't moving a muscle. I took a step forward, ready to yell, but then I saw her right hand twitch, a small, controlled gesture that meant one thing. She was giving him a chance to back down. Parker, it turned out, was ranting about Vera not having ID on her during a jog, claiming she wasn't following HOA security protocols. I stood there in disbelief. Who the heck jogs with their ID pinned to their clothes? When Vera asked if he was law enforcement, Parker puffed out his chest and said, "We're HOA Security. We outrank the cops here." That's when I saw it. A smile creeping onto Vera's face, one that I'd seen before, right before she made enemies regret crossing her. She offered him one last chance. "Sir, I request that you lower your weapon for your own safety." He refused, and that's when everything happened so fast, it was almost a blur. One moment, the gun was in his hand. The next, it was skittering across the pavement. In the blink of an eye, Parker was face down on the ground, his arm locked in a compliance hold that would have made any martial arts instructor proud. Vera hadn't even broken a sweat. Within minutes, the Real police showed up. Parker and his crew tried to scream about assault, but when the officer on the scene took one look at Vera's credentials, everything changed. "You're free to go, ma'am," he said, nodding to her respectfully. Linda Phillips arrived soon after, looking like she had just lost her best asset. She found Parker nursing his bruised ego and her authority in tatters. It should have ended there, but Linda wasn't done. She declared war, not just on Vera, but on both of us. Little did she know, she was poking the hornet's nest. Vera wasn't just a quiet suburbanite. She was a force to be reckoned with, a master tactician who had orchestrated rescues in war zones and handled crises that would break most people. Linda had no idea who she was messing with. An emergency HOA meeting was called, and the clubhouse quickly filled with people. Linda stormed in, covered in pins, and wearing a Bluetooth headset that made her look more like a corporate manager than someone in charge of neighborhood. On the whiteboard behind her, a crude drawing depicted the villain, Parker, with exaggerated muscles, and the hero, Vera. Linda opened the meeting with a dramatic announcement. "Neighbors, it is with great sorrow that I report a violent assault on one of our peacekeepers." Peacekeepers, not officers. Peacekeepers. Parker, sitting off to the side, looked miserable. I raised my hand and asked, "When did jogging with a fitness tracker become a criminal offense?" The room laughed, but Linda didn't find it funny. That's when the hacked body camera footage came to light. A teenager had pulled the footage from the HOA cloud system, and it left no room for argument. The video clearly showed Vera jogging, Parker pulling up in his cart, and Vera disarming him with the precision of a trained professional. The room went silent. A voice from the back said, "We should be paying her HOA dues." Linda sputtered about fake footage, but it was too late. The neighbors were questioning everything, from the HOA's spending to the need for armed patrols. Vera, with her usual calm, launched Operation Truth, a campaign of flyers, door-to-door conversations, and clear, irrefutable facts. Linda tried fines and new rules, but it all crumbled. While Linda panicked, Vera worked quietly, methodically, gathering more support. When the federal audit came in, the HOA's empire collapsed. There's more to the story, of course. Golf cart chases, courtroom drama, and viral live streams. But that's another tale. For now, Pine Ridge Estates is calm again. The kids ride their bikes, gardens flourish, and no one measures grass height anymore. Vera still jogs each morning. No threats, no clipboard patrols, just the sound of her sneakers on the pavement. As for Linda, last I heard, she's trying to sell timeshares in Nevada. Because when you try to run a dictatorship in a neighborhood full of real heroes, you don't just lose. You get dismantled piece by piece and politely disarmed by a true professional. As the dust settled over Pine Ridge Estates, life returned to its natural rhythm, a peaceful hum that had once seemed impossible in the midst of the chaos. Neighbors who had once eyed each other with suspicion now greeted each other with genuine smiles, no longer bound by the iron grip of a power-hungry HOA president. Vera still jogged her morning route, no longer burdened by the threat of an overzealous security force. The only sound was the soft patter of her sneakers against the pavement, a quiet reminder that some heroes don't wear capes, they wear sweatshirts and running shoes. Meanwhile, Linda Phillips, who had once ruled the neighborhood with her list of rules and misguided authority, found herself humiliated and isolated. Her empire had crumbled, but unlike most dictatorships, hers didn't fall to force. It was the subtle, quiet power of truth and patience that dismantled it. As she tried to sell timeshares in Nevada, the irony was not lost on anyone. The real victory had come not from fighting back with violence, but by exposing the cracks in the foundation of her control. Pine Ridge had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a badge, but the courage to stand your ground and the wisdom to pick your battles. What began as a neighborhood squabble had evolved into a testament to resilience, self-reliance, and the importance of community integrity. In the end, the real peacekeepers were the ones who didn't seek power but instead helped bring a neighborhood back to its roots. And as for Vera and me, we had what we wanted all along, a home. Not one dictated by fear, but one where we could breathe easy, enjoy the simple pleasures of life, and know that for once we truly belonged.